Donald Trump was ready to go all in. Just 24 hours before the United States suddenly paused its bombing campaign against Iran, Trump had declared that Tehran had not suffered enough pain. In fact, he publicly threatened what he called a massive attack, bigger than ever before. The Pentagon had a plan. American bombers were ready. The targets had been identified. So why did Trump suddenly hit the brakes? Well, here's what happened. According to a new Axios report, the biggest reason wasn't politics. It wasn't fear, and it wasn't Iran surrendering. It was America's own top military commander in the Middle East telling the president that continuing the bombing simply wasn't worth it anymore. U.S. Central Command Chief Admiral Brad Cooper reportedly told Trump that after nearly 2 weeks of relentless strikes, Iran's ability to attack ships around the Strait of Hormuz had already been severely damaged. In simple words, the military had already hit almost everything it wanted to hit. Cooper reportedly told the White House that nearly 80% of the planned targets had already been destroyed or neutralized. That left only around 20% of the targets. But going after those remaining targets would require launching a much bigger military operation. Without expanding the war, continuing the daily bombing campaign made very little military sense. And that's where the calculations changed. But that wasn't the only problem. Behind closed doors, America's military leadership reportedly delivered another worrying message. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, warned that the U.S. was rapidly using up its stockpile of interceptor missiles. These are the expensive missiles used to shoot down incoming drones and ballistic missiles. If the conflict dragged on, America could struggle to protect its own troops, military bases, and regional allies. In other words, every additional day of bombing Iran also meant America was becoming more vulnerable. Then came diplomacy. Behind the scenes, Iran and Oman have reportedly been trying to work out an arrangement to make shipping through the Strait of Hormuz safer again. The U.S. has also left the door open for talks. Even Trump's own UN ambassador said negotiations with Iran are continuing at multiple levels. So instead of escalating immediately, Washington has chosen what many analysts are calling a quiet-for-quiet strategy. Iran pauses, America pauses, neither side officially backs down. But neither side wants a wider regional war either. At the same time, the United States and Britain are discussing an international coalition to secure the Strait of Hormuz and remove any naval mines that could threaten global oil shipments. So, has the crisis ended? Not really. Trump has made it clear that all military options remain on the table. If diplomacy fails, or if Iran resumes attacks, the bombing campaign could restart within hours. For now, however, the world's most dangerous flashpoint has entered a fragile pause. Not because America ran out of firepower, but because its own military concluded that it had already extracted most of the battlefield advantage it could. The bombs have stopped. The war has not. The next move now depends as much on diplomats as it does on generals.